And the news is just getting worse for poor old billionaire James Packer, and for Crown, the casino giant he built. There's now an inquiry into whether Crown and Packer are fit to hold a gambling licence in New South Wales at the Barangaroo Casino that was meant to open in November. I've told you about it before, how terribly it's gone. Packer himself in giving evidence. He looked bloated, he looked sometimes dazed, very unhappy, said he suffered from bipolar and didn't seem well. And he admitted he'd acted disgracefully by threatening an investor who backed out of a deal he blamed his mental illness. But since then, there have been admissions by Crown that seem to me very damaging, that it didn't do enough checks on money laundering, for instance. In fact, Director Helen Coonan, a former Howard government minister, was shown video of a gambler brought in on a junket swapping a cooler bag packed with cash for gaming chips. A man suspected of triad links in Crown's Melbourne casino this happened. Now, Coonan didn't agree that the casino turned a blind eye to money laundering, but she did agree it was inept or maybe something else to have let this happen. And now Crown is being investigated as well by AUSTRAC now for possible breaches of anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing laws. Joining me is the country's top finance guru, Terry McCrann of the Herald Sun. Terry, thanks for your time. How much trouble is Crown now in?
Well, it's great to see that we not only have these embarrassments and red faces in Melbourne, Andrew, there's just as much embarrassment and in Sydney at this inquiry. Crown and James Packer are both in a world of pain. It's very clear now that there has to be some sort of penalty applied to Crown. This inquiry is just to see whether Crown is a fit and proper person, a fit and proper corporate person to hold the licence for the Barangaroo Casino in Sydney, which is scheduled to open in December. But if they get a negative outcome in relation to Barangaroo, this will reverberate around the country. It'll reverberate around its fitness to hold the licence in Melbourne and also the smaller casino in Perth. So this is a very, very big deal for Crown. It's a very, very big deal for Packer, and we're seeing that in the impact on the share price. The share price has plunged through the floor. It's down 10% so far in the last couple of days, and it was already weak. And that's stripping hundreds of millions of dollars off the value of James Packer's shareholding.
Look, this is extraordinary. Now, like you say, I mean, you know, this could reverberate around the country and put even his Crown's casino licence here in Victoria under huge scrutiny. What do you draw from all this? First of all, why are casinos such a magnet for crooks and money launderers that even Crown, that claimed, oh, we were on top of this, or we thought we were, they're in this sort of strife now?
Well, clearly, Andrew, the control procedures at Crown were extraordinarily lax. Now, all the board had to do, in my judgment, all the management had to do was watch the movie Casino, the Robert De Niro movie Casino, as a trading manual. Then they might have understood that when there are big lumps of cash, literally suitcases of cash, in the case of Crown, we saw that in your video, naughty things can happen. When there are hundreds of thousands of dollars being carried around in a suitcase, something bad is going to happen. And that's clearly what's happened at Crown. Now, I'm not suggesting that Crown was a front for the mafia, obviously not, but there was hundreds of millions of dollars flowing through Crown, and the directors and the management didn't seem to realise that this actually raised questions about money laundering.
Didn't realise or didn't want to realise?
Well, a bit of both, obviously. I think that clearly in relation to the high rollers from China, they were trying to woo that market. They were trying to facilitate that market. I mean, let's not forget, a lot of these people actually flew on Crown jets to get to Australia. And, the idea was maybe we don't really want to put them through too much regulatory difficulties. Let's just make their trips, facilitate their trips, make it as easy as possible. And if they come in with 3 or 4 suitcases, and do they really need that many suitcases to carry their clothing? Well, that's the sort of message that Crown has been sending, and it's going to pay a penalty. It has to pay a penalty. I think we can have more confidence that there'll be a penalty coming out of the inquiry in Sydney than the one, as you were talking about, in Melbourne.
Terry McCrann, this is an astonishing story, really astonishing. I feel a bit sorry for James Packer, but then again, he's got his billions to console him. Or maybe it's now 1 billion. I don't know what it's down to.
A couple of $1 billion less than he had at the beginning of last year when he was trying to sell out at $16 a share, around $15 a share. The share price is now halved to around $8 a share. So that's a very painful lesson.
Terry McCrann, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Andrew.
After the break, we're so obsessed with American Donald Trump. Well, you should have a look at who the real villains are. It's unbelievable. It's like straight out of James Bond. Two countries that seem to be in favour of world domination. And there's an amazing case in New Zealand that brings to focus how much we're prepared to stand up to them.